and always will, is about moving humanity forward. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing, forget about it, Bad Brad Berkwitt, and you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Now, make sure you follow me as well on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Again, it's at BadBradRSR. And check out my great writing team on ringsidereport.com. Well, today, folks, we have a special edition of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. It is my third Moving Humanity Forward panel, and I have a great lineup. I have today Anthony, the Mooch, Scaramucci, who is the founder of Skybridge Capital. He is also the host of the popular Mooch FM. As well, I have the author of the New York Times bestseller, Melania and Me, who is a dear friend, Stephanie Winston Wolkoff. And last but not least, my better half, who everybody knows is Debbie. She has been in the oil refinery business for almost three decades, which is amazing because I'm only 26. So that's a lot of years she's been in the oil refinery business. So that is my panel today. Make sure you share the show. Make sure you retweet it. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this Moving Humanity Forward panel. Forget about it. All right. First of all, good morning, everybody on the East Coast, and Debbie upstairs in Northwest Indiana. Don't tell anybody. You're very far away, Debbie. So welcome to my third Moving Humanity Forward panel. I appreciate each of you coming on, and we've already gone over how we're going to do it. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to throw out a question, and the first one is from Anthony. Is how can we heal polarization in society? And I want to give that question to Stephanie.
So I think it's a great question, Anthony, very important, especially what we're all dealing with today. I think that a rapid transformation is not going to happen. It's going to take time. The building blocks are there. We have people that do want to help one another and do want to have a civic responsibility to be kind and empathetic and caring towards one another. But right now we are in the middle of, the complete opposite. And we're teaching the next generation to be the same exact way as what they've witnessed, which is complete chaos. And so in order to start, a pathway to peace, it has to begin with people being able to speak up, tell the truth, say what they saw. And it doesn't matter what the consequences are, because our country needs you now more than ever to just come out and tell the truth. And from the truth, I think we can begin to heal.
Okay. Does anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, Brad, I'll add to that. Stephanie, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. The problem that I see right now that's going on in society is that there's an erosion of truth. There are things that are being said and things that are being propagated that are just absolute falsehoods. We have to be able to get past that. We have to be able to appeal to people who have decency. They may have different viewpoints. They may think that the road leads to the same place. The problem is the road has to be based on truth. So I think one of the main things that we need to do is find and focus on a common ground. We all are Americans. We all want good things for our children. We all want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That's what this country was founded on. Different ways to get there, different ways to do that, but it has to be steeped in the truth. So we also have to have the qualities that Stephanie mentioned a little bit earlier: compassion, diplomacy, but we have to accept and tell the truth.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Debbie, and it says, America's democracy has been severely compromised and is hanging on a thread in her opinion. The midterm elections will be crucial in either changing the current course or solidifying it. If you share the same sentiments, how do you plan to use your platform to appeal to apathetic or disgruntled voters that they should show up and vote? And I want to give that to Anthony. Oh, can't hear you, Anthony. You're on mute.
Sorry, guys. I put you on mute because there was an ambulance driving by. No,
Okay,
there's a lot there, Brad. What I would say, and first of all, I agree with what Debbie and Stephanie were saying about polarization and all of this disinformation. But what I would say is, if we don't figure out a way to get what I would call the moderate middle of the country back engaged in the political system, we're going to go into a further political divot. And so what's happened now is both of these sides have decided that they can act a little nutty and extreme on both sides. It gins up a good enough amount of political activity for them, and it makes the moderate middle very apathetic. And so the moderate middle is disengaged. And so we have to figure out a way to do that. Andrew Yang is working on that. Miles Taylor is working on that. There are Democrats and Republicans working on that. Some people may disagree with Liz Cheney's politics. And, certainly you get to disagree with her view on abortion or disagree on certain conservative ideology that she has, but at least she's principled when it comes to the democracy, and she's respectful of the democracy. So for me, what I'm going to try to do over the next 6 to 24 months as we lead into the midterms and the congressional election is talk to that moderate middle and see if I can somehow engage them. Because what the politicians have figured out, the more cynical they are and the more extremist they present themselves, the more apathetic the middle becomes. And that's a good thing for these politicians, because remember, guys, these are marketing competitions. If they've got to sell to the moderate middle, do you think the principleless Ted Cruz is not all of a sudden going to become a moderate to stay in office? Of course he is. And so we have to get the moderate middle back into the game. And these guys have figured out a way to strain them out, either through gerrymandering, voter restrictions, nonsensical behavior, has taken a lot of people out of the game. Said, look, I'm going to focus on my family and my business, and I'm not going to be politically active or even go show up and vote.
Okay. This question is from Stephanie, and Stephanie asks, why is it so important for all of our children, the next generation, to have role models to look up to, and who are they? I'm going to give that to Deb.
Good question. I think it's important to have role models, because without role models, how do you know how to pattern yourself? How do you know what's acceptable? How do you know what is successful? What success will bring you? So I think that we do that by holding people who are who have done a lot for society, holding people who are unselfish, people who have shown loyalty, holding those people in esteem. I think that's the way that we do. And of course, that means we have to have conversations with our children, right? We have to know the things that reach them. We have to know the things that's important to them, and use those things to emulate or help them to emulate the qualities in people that we see that are good people and that are moving humanity forward.
Now, do you have anybody off the top of your head that you could name? Because she was asking, who do you see? Do you see anybody that you could think of? Because I know that's tough.
I see a lot of people. I know a lot of people, not getting into the sports aspect of it, but what I see from off the top of my head, LeBron James comes to mind because of what work he's doing with the children. He's opened schools up. He has invested in children's education, and if you believe that education is the key to the future, he's giving them the key. So that's one person that I see that's actually doing a lot. And the other one is Melinda Gates. I mean, without having to go into a whole lot of detail, her work is there for everyone to see. She is moving humanity forward. Sometimes, though, we get wrapped up into people who are famous when that person that they may want to emulate is right in their lives. It could be a good coach, somebody who, tries to instill in them values, come to practice on time, give it your all. Look, as far as your teammates is concerned, to have consideration for your teammates. Look to help your teammates along. That could be just that could be the playground coach. It doesn't have to be someone famous, but of course, sometimes famous people have a platform, so they'll have more eyes on it. But sometimes we could even narrow it down to people in our everyday lives that's doing things to, as you say, move humanity forward.
Okay, Anthony, you want to add to that at all?
Not really, no, because it's so well said. Anything that I'm saying is just going to dilute it. So I think, no, I don't want to add any of that. Okay. I think it's very well said. I'm in complete agreement.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Because I want to add to just what you said, and I think it's so important, Deb, to focus and as again you just said, Anthony. She said it, but education is the most important aspect of leading our country forward, leading the world forward, because it leads to critical thinking. It leads to us being able to sit here and have these conversations with one another, whether we agree to disagree or disagree to agree, but at least we come together and we're not left versus right? People say it's about right versus wrong, but through education and through that ability to have a collective thought process together and to use our role models as guides to help us, whether it be the firemen, the policemen, the officers, that have put their lives, on the line daily, but especially over this period of time that we've seen so much destruction. So I think that if we can educate women, girls, children, family members, teachers, it has to be a trickle down effect, bottom up, down, top down. But I just wanted to highlight that.
Well, and I want to chime in on that because you're absolutely right with education. The last panel I had was Frank Figluzzi, who was with the FBI, as you know, Glenn Kirshner, that everybody knows, actor Jim Pettick, and Jack Hughes, the lead singer from Wang Chung. And on that panel, the one consensus that everybody had was education. Everybody, somewhere, somehow, education was the key to fixing a lot of the issues that we have. So you're spot on with that. The next question is from Anthony, and he's asking, how can we empower people to become economically aspirational? I'm gonna give that to you, Stephanie.
Great. Do not work for Trump, no. I'm being honest, I had a great career and I was making a great living. I gave it all up to basically lose a lot of money. But in all honesty, I think that, can you ask the question again? I'm going to ask that question too.
How can we empower people to become economically aspirational?
Well, again, I think it comes down to education. I think it needs to start at home, and it needs to start, with everyone around each one of us, whether it be our family members, our friends. We need support and guidance because we don't all know everything, right? We have to be able to admit when we're wrong. Back to what you were both saying earlier, right? This is all about truth and fact. Like, I know I have to be able to admit to myself, I'm good at something, but I also stink at something. And so when it comes to finance, for example, I'm going to go to Anthony versus going to, somebody else that doesn't have the experience. Yes, I know I don't. So I think it is a big part is accepting who you are and how to gain from your experiences and where to go and to use your knowledge that you've learned along the way.
Okay. Deb, do you want to chime in? Anything else?
Yeah, I'll add something. And actually, a lot of it is what Stephanie said. I think that each individual has to, I don't want to be repetitive or redundant, but I do want to reinforce. Each individual has to realize what they're good at. A parent to a child coming up, again, a lot of this is in the home, realize what that child's interests are. I have two children. They have two totally different skill sets. I think both of them are highly skilled, but their skill sets are different. So I'm not going to try to force the one child to go into the same field as the other one, knowing that that's not their interest and that's not their skill set. I think we also need to get back to trades. There is a lot of honor in someone doing a job and doing it well. I always think of people who are woodworkers, people that can build furniture, people that can carve or make something out of basically, you know, what the rest of us may think is not much. The sense of satisfaction that comes with that, the sense of satisfaction that comes with a job well done. Myself, as in the field that I'm in, it can be kind of, it can be kind of difficult at times, but I get a satisfaction in knowing that what I have done that day made someone else maybe a little safer, maybe a little bit more cognizant of something that they may not have been cognizant of. There's a satisfaction that comes in that. So if we can reinforce and instill in our children the importance of feeling that way and hone on something that they are good at, I think that could help them to realize that that is their avenue to economic empowerment.
Okay. All right.
Really powerful stuff. Can I just add one thing, if you don't mind, Brett? You know, when I'm thinking about all this and all this makes sense, I just want people to think about how we were prior to the introduction of all this social media, because all of this stuff makes so much sense. And then you get this robotic technology and the anonymous bullying and the tear down of Debbie's argument, the picking on Stephanie. And all of a sudden, all of these great ideas get diluted and distorted and destroyed in that rigmarole. And I think that at some point, we're going to have to address that. And I don't want to be the historian here, but Ronald Reagan passed this Radio Act. I don't remember the exact Freedom of Information or something like that. He said you had to give equal airtime to different political constituents, and it led to the rise of Rush Limbaugh in the 80s. But I do think something's going to have to happen on social media. I don't know what it is, and I'm not here as a social media expert, but we have to figure out a way, and maybe it's just ending the anonymity, you know, because I think people are more civil. I mean, I have haters on the internet that I guarantee take selfies with me when they see me. Okay, but they're lighting me up, you know, from their mom's basement, anonymous, and it's destroying the ability to get these great ideas into the atmosphere and to get them to take hold to progress the society. So anyway, I'm sorry to rant about that, but I think it's hugely important. I think if we don't figure out a way to clean up the town square, we're not going to be able to get through to people. And it goes back to the disinformation thing and the lying that's out there that Debbie was talking about a few minutes ago.
Well, you know what, Anthony, and I piggyback on that point about anonymity. Also, we're having problems with these shooters. They're, you know, they hide behind these things. People, because they've asked me, so well, how do they track them down? People have IPs. It's not that Twitter can't track somebody down, even to their mom's basement. There's the anonymity of them attacking or putting stuff out there where they're, you know, I don't want to get into gun stuff right now, but they're talking about that too. And you brought up social media. There has to be something done with social media. There has to be. I don't know the answers. I don't know what the fix is, but, you know, I've talked to Frank Fagluzzi, worked with the FBI counterintelligence, and he's got some great ideas on it. But I agree with you that something has got to be done with social media. Next question comes from Debbie, and she asks, our country seems to operate best under a system of checks and balances. If executed correctly, those checks and balances should provide a centered approach to governing. As it stands now, we have one party, Democrats, and a party that has been overtaken by lies, conspiracies, and criminal behavior. How do the Republicans take back their party so that governing is balanced? And I want to give that to Anthony.
Really, really, really good question. So I'm gonna say something that you guys will say, okay, that's impossible. And then I'm going to say another thing. You'll say it's impossible. Remember, I'm an entrepreneur. So what entrepreneurs do? We got to go from 0 to 1 on something. We have to create something from nothing. Okay. So number one, got to end the gerrymandering. You literally need a constitutional amendment to stop this nonsense. Are we in a real democracy where the political leaders are picking the voters? I thought the voters are supposed to pick the political leaders. So we have to end the gerrymandering. You're only going to be able to do that through a constitutional amendment. Number two, okay, unfortunately, despite the debate, I believe, and many people believe, the way to unify the country is to bring us together, have some form of mandatory national service at this point. Government is providing lots of different services to people. In exchange for those services, you have to serve the government in some capacity. Maybe you're picking up garbage in the national park. You don't have to be in the military, but you're doing something where the Bob Doles of Kansas are meeting the George McGoverns from the Dakotas. Because when that happens, people are waiting. Oh, you serve in the Army? Oh, I serve in the Army? Oh, wait a minute. We don't have to demonize each other. I'm a country mouse. You're a city mouse. We don't have to rip each other. You have extra skin melanin in your skin and I have less of it. We don't have to demonize each other, or you have more of it. I have more of it. You have less of it. My point is, when we meet each other and we see each other, we're Americans first, and all this nonsense and tribalism dials down. Now, two more quick points. We haven't had a constitutional amendment, a real one, since the 1965 Voting Rights Act. We had a 93, the 27th Amendment was an administrative one, but we don't pass constitutional amendments anymore. We killed the document. The document was supposed to be a living document. The reason why you have amendments is the same reason why the phone goes from iPhone 1 to iPhone 13. You're supposed to look at the social contract and improve the social contract for the existing generations of Americans. These guys don't want to do that. They want to just perpetuate and stay in power. So we have to create entrepreneurial politicians that will break through to the average American who will say, oh, that makes sense. We should do that. That would make the society fairer. It would make us get along better. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. A lot of people listening right now saying, NFW, no way that's going to happen. Yes, you're right, but that's what entrepreneurs do. They go from 0 to 1. They create something out of nothing.
So,
sorry, I'm lit up about this because this is so easy to fix. Okay, you love the country. Debbie loves it. Stephanie loves the country. We don't have to agree on every single issue, but we all love the country. Let's row the boat together. Okay, you don't have to agree on my issue on guns or abortion or pick the hot buttons. I don't know what the hell. You guys probably do agree with my issue, but I'm saying.
No, I actually agree with you. But
row the boat together. Row the boat together.
But how? Okay. But the last part of her question, how do Republicans, because look, I said, and really, I mean this, I really do try to be down the middle. I said the Republicans had the greatest opportunity to be inclusive, not exclusive anymore, dump Trump, get off with his crazy insanity. And you know better than anybody in this panel, Anthony, they doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, Lauren Boeberts, Ted Cruz's, all of them, Josh Hawley, all of them, with the exception of, I'm talking about national people, not in local elections that people you may know, except for Liz Cheney, okay, and Adam Kinzinger. Adam Kinzinger is leaving. Liz Cheney is probably going to get defeated in Wyoming, which is insane. Okay, I don't have to agree with her policies, but I agree with you that she loves the country. We can debate policies. But the last part of that question was, how do the Republicans take back their party? And will they take back their party? Or do you have to is it totally gone like Joe Walsh and other people say, it's history. Fred Wellman says it's history. Got to come up with another party, which that's easier said than done.
You want me to respond real quickly? Because I don't want to suck up all the oxygen.
Go ahead.
I would just say two things. You got to keep listen, you can't have a one-party system. No. One-party systems suck. They fail, okay? So you got to revive the Republican Party. I hear what Joe's saying, but you got to get a Obama-like transformative leader to build a new coalition. Let me talk about President Obama for a second. Again, you can like or dislike him. He was up against the Clinton establishment. They had locked up the entire state houses everywhere in the country. They were in the presidency for 8 years. They had the Democratic establishment. President Obama is an entrepreneur. He built a coalition of new people to take that party over. Okay. And we need somebody like that in the Republican Party. Now, who's like that? Francis Suarez is like that. Okay. He's running for president, Francis Suarez, and he's not in the MAGA lane. He's actually a normal guy with a normal family. His father was the mayor as well of Miami. He's not as well known as a DeSantis because he's not the darling of Fox News, but he may emerge. He's 44 like President Obama was, and he's a smart guy. He's socially balanced, or let me describe him as socially inclusive. He's not one of these nuts in the Republican Party, and maybe some Democrats won't like some of his pro-business policies. I don't know. Maybe they won't like them, but you know what? Maybe they will like them, because we need pro-business policies to create jobs. So my point is, I don't want to give up on the party, because what are we going to do? You're going to create a new party? Let me tell you something. Ross Perot prevented that. Ross Perot scared the daylights out of these guys. Okay. He got 19.9% of the vote. And then these two guys got together and they created a strong duopoly. It's almost impossible to get on the ballot as a presidential candidate in 50 states if you're not a Democrat or a Republican. It's almost impossible. Okay. So I don't want to do that. So anyway, those are my 2 cents there.
No, but Anthony, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
But the Republican Party is being held hostage. And so
I know. Yeah, of course.
Now what? How, right? We need accountability.
Okay. Let me just say this. Okay. You know, when the witch had the water thrown on her, you remember the Wizard of Oz? What happened to the soldiers when the witch got hit with the water? Remember Dorothy actually threw the water on her? She started melting. The soldiers looked around and said, hey, I'm sorry, Dorothy. You know, if you think Kevin McCarthy likes Trump, you think Mitch McConnell likes Trump?
No, they hate his guts.
These are a bunch of cowards. This is how I know this could work. These are a bunch of cowards. They're spinning weather vanes. If a political leader rose to power in the Republican Party that was normal and had some common sense, they would get in line. That's what they do.
Well, you know what, Anthony?
It's a disgusting thing, Stephanie, because or Debbie, because you know why it's disgusting? Because you're not like that. Yeah. You're not politicians. You're principled people. These people are like this. You know, they spin. You know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but
I'm not cursing, Bradley. I'm not cursing.
I know. Let me call me Bradley.
I'm lit up. But I'm just not. I haven't said one F-bomb yet. I'm lit up, but I'm not.
He called me by my full name. That's like when Kellyanne Conway called Chris Cuomo Christopher. But I'm not. But Anthony and I are tight, so I'll let him get away with it.
I'm just letting you know. I'm not cursing. I am lit up.
Yeah, but Anthony. But Anthony. Let's take Mitt Romney. Okay, everybody want to get Mitt Romney credit. But everybody forgets that when Trump was transitioning, okay, Mitt Romney went to whatever restaurant that was in the high-rise building. The kisses took us to get the Secretary of State position, which he never was going to get. Trump brought him there. And if you saw the video that Ron Filipkowski just recently put out, where Trump was saying, and if I would have made him get down on his knees, he would have. And he probably would have for the Secretary of State. So he's not in there. So I'm glad that you mentioned Francis Suarez and not like a Mitt Romney, because it's not Mitt Romney. You know, well, it's not.
The funny thing is, you know what these guys did to me? This was, and Stephanie would really appreciate this. Okay. So I knew and I liked Mitt and I had supported Mitt. Okay. And so they brought Mitt to be the Secretary of State. They asked me my opinion, right? I said, I like Mitt. I said, Mitt would do a good job. You know what they told Mitt? Scaramucci didn't want you to be the Secretary of State. Stephanie, are you surprised by that?
Not at all.
I was like, wait, what? I didn't want to be secretary. And first of all, they would never listen to me on anything anyway, but then why would I say that? And you see, they were trying to do that so they would dematerialize my relationship with Mitt Romney. See what they did? That was my buddy, the Dark Prince. What's the kid's name again? You know, the know-it-all. Jared Kushner.
Jared.
He's the one that told them that.
Jared saved the Middle East. My favorite. I'm
sorry, but I mean that's what they do. I mean, this is a disgusting group of people.
Yeah. Okay. Stephanie's next question is, what can we do through innovation and technology to promote peace? I'm going to give that to Debbie.
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, a lot of things are set by tone. So if you're talking about innovation and technology, I don't know how you outline this. I default to social media, some sort of media. But if there were a platform that focused on truth, focused on humanity, focused on uniting people, maybe kind of grassroots, and got people together for a common goal, perhaps we could move things forward in that manner. I'll give you an example, but it's nothing to do with technology. It's got more to do with the contagiousness of positivity, and even in the smallest things. Go to McDonald's, get in the line. Guy was, he was a little bit ahead of me, but he let me go. So I said, you know what, that was a nice thing. He could have gone ahead, but he allowed me to go. So, you know, I'll pay for his breakfast. I paid for his breakfast. That made me feel good because it made me feel like I did something, even though it was little, I did something to maybe make somebody smile and make them have a good start of the day. It was ironic because the day later, the same thing happened, except for the person in front of me actually paid for my breakfast. And for all of the day, I was just smiling because someone showed a degree of kindness. How you harness that on a technological front or maybe on a social media front, it would take somebody a whole lot smarter than me. But I just know that feeling is contagious. And if you could harness it in that manner, perhaps the things that we see, the filth that we see right now on a lot of the social media platforms could be replaced with, and I'm not talking about a saccharine type of feel good. I'm talking about something that's actually beneficial in people's lives. So it could take the form of some sort of social media platform. It could take the form of something that eventually ends up uniting people in person for action, whether the action is breast cancer, whether it's anti-racism, whether it's healthcare, or you know, something relevant to some of the issues that we face. But I think you could harness that good feeling of one person being giving to another and use it to promote humanity.
Okay. Anthony, do you want to add?
Yeah, you see, I don't want to step over all that because it's so good. You know, I don't have anything else to say. I would just reiterate what I was saying about the social media side of this stuff too. The ideas are so good. They go through this reality distortion prism of our social media and people get burnt up by it. But I love what Debbie's saying.
Okay. Next question comes from Anthony. How can we impart American values on the rest of the world? I'm going to give that to Stephanie.
Well, I think that still falls under the way I think about it is like basically exploring the role of innovation through technology and education. And I think by everyone having access to social media, to the internet, is as critically as important as limiting the amount of access that people have to social media, if that makes sense. Because we know that third world countries, I think it's like 95% of women do not have access to the internet. That alone, being able to, again, let's say there was a platform to create some type of, like Deb was saying, you know, program, or whether it be some type of education that is taught to all, and everyone does have access to that. But then we were getting into, okay, logistics, electricity. I mean, these are all things that promote, you know, peace and moving humanity forward. But in order to do that, we need people to understand the restrictions that so many individuals have, even getting access to proper information. And that's why the information they do get must be the facts, must be the truth, and must have documents or some type of evidence-based documents that people can actually refer to when trying to make an educated decision.
Okay. Did anybody want to add? No?
I think it's good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Debbie, you want to? Okay. All right. So the next one is, in your opinion, this is Debbie's question. In your opinion, what are some things that the average everyday person can do to move humanity forward? Anthony, take that one, please.
I mean, I think this is it. This is, it's a distillation of what everything Debbie and Stephanie are saying. But I think this is it. This is almost like, the government is a blunt instrument. But when the government drafted 85% of the 18 to 24-year-olds to serve in World War II, it changed the entire country. It forced a civility and a military discipline of the country. There's a reason why in the 1950s, the man in the gray flannel suit was written, right? Because you had all this regimency and thing. I'm not saying we have to go back to that, but I'm telling you, we need the government committed to the idea of national comity, COMITY. And we got to do a couple of things together. And if we do that, you'll create the habits and the culture of togetherness that we do not have right now. And I'm telling you right now, if we don't do that, we're going to further fracture and we're going to further tribalize the country. Okay, and I'm going to say something that's going to piss everybody off because that's why people watch your show, okay? There's a group of white people in the country that don't want black and brown people running the country. Okay, just letting you know that. They've decided that the democracy works as long as the whites are demographically in the majority. If the whites are going to be demographically in the minority, then you know what? Let's change the rules on the democracy. Okay, and those people have to be destroyed. I'm not talking about killing them, but I'm talking about beating them in the free marketplace of intellectual ideas and public opinion. Okay, and we have to do that because are you telling me that black and brown people who will ultimately become the majority of the population of the country, they can't run the country as effectively as white people? Of course they can run the country effectively as white people. Enough is enough. And those people have to be called out and they have to be beaten in the free marketplace of ideas. Okay, I'm done.
But I got to ask,
I'm so lit up about that. I'm going on mute. I'm going on mute right now because I feel like I'm sucking out the oxygen.
You're not. No, you're not. Okay. Yo, and I love you for your voice, Anthony. You know that. I got to ask you this. You're on mute. You don't take yourself off of mute.
I'm back off mute.
No, I have to ask you this. As you're full-blooded Italian or as close as you could be, you probably got 2% Jewish in you because you're a money guy. So
it's profiling. He's profiling on his own.
Yeah, well, because I could say, well, I'm not offended by it because I'm 50% of the Jewish peoples for my DNA and 48%. Debbie reminds me, she's always like, you like nice things, but you're always trying to make a deal. Okay, all right, it is what it is, but that's my genealogy. But I got to ask you this question because that's one of your talking points, Anthony. You always talk about black and brown people, and I agree with you. But I also know, being Italian, that a lot of Italians don't like what you're saying. So I have to ask you this question. And I'm not asking you to call people out. No, you're going to stand on your principles. And that's what I love about you. You don't care what people, you care what people think, but you don't care when they're wrong. But I know you catch it more than I do, especially where you live. If I was back in New York, I would catch it too. I catch it from the veterans because I'm a veteran against Trump. So I catch it from a different demographic. But if I was back in New York, I would catch it from a lot of Italians that I knew growing up that loved Trump, okay? And they hated when Obama was president. They hated it. And I know why. But I got to ask you, how do you, the people that don't like what you're saying all the time, because I've seen you on many shows and you have that same talking point and I agree with it 100%. How do you deal with it? Or you don't? You cut them off? What do you do?
Well, listen, you can't really deal with it. Everybody cares what other people think. Okay, so we can't pretend that we don't care what other people think because we're a social organism. But what I don't care about is certain people and what they think. And what my grandmother would say in Italian is what other people think of you is none of your business. And she's right about that. Like if I worried about, when I got fired from the White House, I got lit up by everybody. They rolled me in margarita salt on Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay. What do you want me to do? You want me to crumble to the ground? That's not my personality. Dust myself off, go back into the game. And by the way, if I made a mistake working for Donald Trump, like Stephanie, I owned the mistake. I didn't say it's this person's fault and that person's fault. I said, you know what? I made a mistake, and I've offered my apology because Trump did something that I was an accomplice to, and I'm sorry for it. And I wish I wasn't an accomplice, but he added to the racial tension in our society. He added to the coarseness of our society. He added to the tribal nature, and he caused a lot of pain and racial hurt. Okay. And so for me, I have to own that I supported the guy. I was in a supermarket at Cinderella's in Southampton, Stephanie, right? And I'm pushing the cart, and these two Hispanic women are looking at me, and they're talking to each other in Spanish. I'm pushing the cart, and I got my kids with me. And finally, they come over to me, okay? And the woman, it was a mother and a daughter. They were working as like house servants in somebody's house. And the woman come over to me, and she started hugging me. And she said, I just want to thank you. We watch you on television. You're telling the truth. You're trying to heal what's going on. And my daughter and I want to say thank you. That was a big moment for me. That was a big moment. I spoke in Nashville 2 weeks ago. There was a Black woman living in Switzerland, used to live in the United States. She's like, she left after Trump. She's living in Switzerland. She was at the event. She came over to me. I watch you on CNN. I just want to thank you for telling the goddamn truth. And, and so forth. You probably think, okay, I'm patting myself on the back right now. But you're asking me about how people think and whether or not I think they think about me, I care about it or not. How do I handle it? I care about the two maids at Cinderella's and the woman that came to visit me after I got off the podium, more than I care about the white supremacist screeds against me or the cuckoo Italians that live down the block from me, who, by the way, their grandparents couldn't get jobs.
Right.
And they were told no Italian need apply when my grandmother was looking for a job.
They forgot
now,
that.
All of a sudden, they're hoity-toity.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
They assimilated, Anthony. They assimilated.
But let me tell you something. Assimilation requires unity. Okay. They become part of the problem in that form of the first name of the country is United. What the hell are we doing? You want to sit here and shoot at each other? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, you have more diversity in an office like this one behind me. You get more creativity. You get more innovation. I don't have all the answers. Okay. The innovation comes from this. You want to read a fun, great book. There's a new book out called Lessons in History by Bonnie Garmis. It is so fun because it's written, the time period is 1960. This poor woman is a chemist, and she's dealing with the Don Drapers in the scientific community. She's getting destroyed by male chauvinism and sexism. And it's a story about life in the 60s, but it's really a story that she's telling about today. Like, hey, hold on a second. We're advancing. That woman can get her ideas published now. That woman is going to add to the debate. They're not trying to sexually molest her in the closet. Maybe they are, but at least now women can talk about it and try to get it to stop. You understand what I'm saying? And so the point is, I finished the book. I wrote to the author. She's going to come on my podcast. I was like, listen, the book is brilliant because it's connecting the country from the 60s to today. And it makes you think we've made a lot of progress. We can make it better, this imperfect union. We can make it better. Let's focus on that. You're not going to get everybody.
Right.
The KKK is not going away.
No.
Okay. There was an America First movement in 1938. But here's what I'm pissed off about. We talk about jackass Republicans. In 1940, Wendell Willkie showed up at the White House. He got defeated by Franklin Roosevelt. Mr. President, you're my president now. How can I help you? Well, you got to help me with Charles Lindbergh, this lunatic, Nazi sympathizer, and Father Coughlin and Huey Long, these America First people. You got to help me put them down. That was Kevin McCarthy's role. We don't have a Wendell Willkie. Kevin McCarthy should have stood in front of the White House with Joe Biden and said, this son of a bitch tried to destroy the democracy, and we got no use for the guy. And if I lose my job over that, I actually don't care.
Right.
Okay.
But that's the problem.
And if he did that, he probably wouldn't have lost his job, and people would respect him. They'd be like, all right, we don't agree with everything Kevin's saying, but he's standing there with Joe Biden because he loves the country. Okay. What you may not remember Wendell Willkie or Franklin Roosevelt, but you had a war going on. They were trying to put the country together, subordinating themselves to the greater value of the country. But you had America first back then.
Right.
You got it now. And, listen, we made a mistake. We helped Trump become president. I have to own that the rest of my life. And then he took all of that vile coarseness that was already under the surface, and he raised it, and he gave them a license to go after everybody. So, okay. So I'm out there. I take my shit. I get my death threats. I'm out there. First curse word, by the way, Brad. I'm out, but I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to do the best I can to explain it and fight 100%. Against it.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm
sorry.
No.
I'm going on mute now.
Sorry, because everything you're saying is so important, and it just brings on more conversation. That's what more people need to be doing, and allowing people to voice how they feel. Just like you said, like I helped Melania Trump, build a platform. That I thought I could keep politics and ethics separate. You can't. Doesn't work that way. And I have to accept that I was in that White House. And regardless of what happened to me, regardless of what they did to me, I still thought I could make a difference. And I still believe that I can make a difference. But here's where I find the problem, Anthony, is that people are not forgiving of people that did try and make a difference for whatever their reasons were, right? For whatever anyone's involvement was with Trump. You own it. You can be disgusted by it, which is how I feel. It's the fact, or you don't. And you say, look, I was there. I did my best. It didn't work out. But we need people, because I read on, and I'm constantly reading online and hearing, from individuals that, oh, that person's, you can't listen to them. They worked with Trump. Look, everybody makes mistakes in life. We're perfectly imperfect, but we'll never be able to move on unless we can accept one another's faults, accept one another's, differences. And that's where, unless we do, and unless Republicans stop fighting against Republicans that tried to work in the Trump White House and failed, where this cycle will continue forever.
Right. I agree with that. But Anthony, the one thing that you said about Kevin McCarthy, you could take Liz Cheney and put Liz Cheney into what you said. She did the right thing. She admitted that January 6th was an MF insurrection, and Trump was responsible, not alone, but he was responsible. And they're eating, 93%, which I don't understand how she did it, but okay. 93% of the time she voted with Trump. She is a true conservative. I'm not a conservative, but she's a true definition of conservative. The conservatives are throwing her in with the sharks because she did the right thing. She put country over party, and the Democrats are guilty of it too, to an extent. That's another major problem that we didn't address. It has to be what you said, Anthony. You didn't say this one part, but I think you meant it. Country over party, Democrat, Republican. And it's not. It's all about staying in power. You said this on Stuttering John show. People in the Democratic Party have been in the party for 80,000 years. I know I'm exaggerating, but it's time for them to go. You need young people with fresh ideas. And Stephanie, you talked about it because I agree with you. You have a current crop, and I'm not saying you didn't say this, Anthony, a current crop of Republicans who don't want to do that. All they want to do is destroy the country and stay in power. And it's disgusting because, like Anthony said, we need two parties, period. And I always ask Anthony, I've asked Anthony this before, and being the brilliant political mind that he is, he's got his thing on mute. I'm waiting for him to say something. I asked him the last time he came on, would a Bob Dole, who loved this country, we're not talking policies, folks that watch this, who loved this country, Gerald Ford, I'm reading a biography on Betty Ford, who I admire. Okay, Gerald Ford. Eisenhower, these people, now Anthony corrected me that Eisenhower did let McCarthy go for a little bit and then shut him down. And Reagan, I honestly believe that these Republicans, policies aside, would not have allowed this current crop of Republicans, Bobart, Green, Cruz, Hawley, and so on, and Gosser, and you name them, do what they're doing. And you addressed that earlier, Stephanie, what they're doing. And they're destroying our democracy. They're destroying it to stay in power. And it disgusts me, the racism, the misogyny, and the fact that candidates, now I'm going on a tangent because Anthony got me on this thing here. I can't put myself on mute, I'm the host. But they got candidates that are running on this MFer, racism, misogyny, narcissism, and dividing the country, and they're winning. Not all of his candidates are winning, but they're winning. Herschel Walker in Georgia, I don't care if you don't like Raphael Warnock, but Herschel Walker, who every day a new kid comes out that he was a father to and didn't raise, and his son is acting like a Mama Luke on social media, acting a fool. All he's doing is acting like the Trump kids do. Not talking about Barron, because I don't attack underage kids. But Don Jr., it's ridiculous. We have never seen this before. And social media is guilty of a lot of it because they have who would listen to Don Jr., honestly? But 5.7 million people on Twitter, even if his numbers aren't 5.7. Where else would he mean, Anthony? Where else would Don Jr. mean anything? Seriously, where would his voice, his book failed, the Republican Party bought his book. You got books that did well. Goodbye, Gordon Gekko. You put books out. They do well. Stephanie, you're a New York Times bestseller. Where the hell would a Trump book do well? The only one that sold some things, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, is Ivanka, her clothing or whatever. I think maybe she made a little bit of money on her stuff. Not all the money she grifted off to the White House, her and Jared. But, it's just, yeah. Okay.
Hey, Brad, can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I hear exactly what you're saying.
I needed that.
I saw you getting gassed.
Yeah, I am.
I think a lot about what you all said about country over party. And that is absolutely true. I heard a story on NPR years ago. And the way the lady described it, it was more like individualism versus community. She said something culturally about us in the United States is that this culture kind of feeds into individualism. And I kind of hear that common thread even when Anthony talks about service and service to the country. I think we do need to get that back because what's going on, and if you ever deny that we are an individualistic society, go drive on I-65. There are some people who feel like this whole world belongs to them and everybody else is just in it. And unless we learn to share, unless we learn to be accepting of one another, unless we learn to be appreciative of one another, we're going to still go through this individualistic mindset. And it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to ruin the country. Politicians at one time used to view themselves as public servants. You and I watched the First Ladies. And when you hear Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt and, Obamas and the Fords, they viewed themselves, in my opinion, more as what they could do, especially when they start honing in on Michelle Obama and her father's illness and why that shaped her mindset to wanting the healthcare regulations to be enacted, which was a driving force between her and Barack trying to get that authored through. I know, there's different ways to get to the same thing or to the same goal, but they had more of a sense of being a servant, which shows a bit of humility there. And that's not what I'm seeing. And I'm not just talking about the Republicans either. That's not what I'm seeing with a lot of politicians. If you're in politics, not just politics, if you're in politics, if you're in media, if you're in anything that you're trying to better something, but you're serving yourself,
yeah,
what's your motive there?
Right.
So, I think some of that is the issue too, is that we have to put the community the country, the greater whole, above our individual pursuits. And Ziegler said, if you want success, help other people achieve it. And then that also gives you a good feeling of self-worth and actually promoting something greater than yourself. So I think that's been lost in our politics, Democrat and Republican.
Well, I got to say something in credit to Anthony, because he brought it up on a couple shows ago last year when we talked. It might have been 20 every year with COVID. It's like 10. Anthony brought up something about, because he knows I'm retired military. Very few, and Anthony, you would know the number, very few people serving now served in our military, correct?
It's about 15%, but it used to be in the high 30s.
Right.
You know? And right after the Second World War, it was higher than that. And so, remember Bob Dole said to Bob Woodward, they asked him, so you're a partisan. Yes, I'm a Republican. Well, why did you go against Richard Nixon? You and Howard Baker, why'd you go against him? Remember they met with him and said, yep, Mr. President, you don't have the votes. You're going to either have to resign or you're going to end up getting impeached. And he said, well, you see, I can't move my arm. It was wounded. I was wounded in Italy. He said, but the day that I was wounded, a sniper blew the head off of my best friend. It split my friend's head like a melon the day that I was wounded. And so I think of him. He was there as a young man fighting for America, fighting for these documents, this Constitution. And listen, I'm a partisan. I'm Richard Nixon. I voted for Richard Nixon, but Richard Nixon broke the law and disavowed the vow that he took to the Constitution. And I can't do that to, and he mentioned the guy's name who I can't forget, whose head got blown off and split like a melon in Italy during the Second World War. And so I have to be an American and a patriot first and a partisan second, or even lower than that. And I have to tell Mr. Nixon he's got to go.
Well, Anthony,
where is that?
Well, Goldwater.
Where is that?
Goldwater went in there. I just watched a documentary on CNN. I think he said you had 5 votes. He said, Mr. President, you've had 5 votes. Barry Goldwater, ultra conservative, said, I think he said you had 5 votes, and Goldwater said, and one of them's not mine, because he put the country first.
No, John Farrell wrote in the biography the whole story about how Nixon was disappointed because he thought Goldwater, who was so staunch, was going to back him no matter what. And then if you think of Trump's cynicism, the reason why Nixon got ousted, he didn't hang in there. Look, you could hate Richard Nixon, but at least Richard Nixon followed the process. He broke the law. He tried to cover it up. Okay, I got you. I'm leaving. Trump is still telling me he's making hundreds of millions of dollars off a line about the election. You got to think about these people,
Anthony, I got to add one more point to Nixon, what you just said, and then I'm going to go to Stephanie's question. Also, I give Nixon credit for this. When Nixon left, there were still some people, not a lot, but there were still some people that didn't want him to leave. They wanted him to stay in power. He didn't take the country down with him. Had that been Trump, he would have lied like he's doing now and taken the country with him. Even Nixon, who was caught dirty, resigned before he was impeached, didn't leave. He did his victory thing on a helicopter and he left. He didn't take the country with him. And that's what Trump is doing and has done.
It's terrible.
It's all about lying, cheating, stealing, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. I mean, his lies have become so convincing to his followers that there needs to be something, and I don't know what that is, Anthony, that educates. And again, as you were saying earlier, Deb, it's like, what do we do to advance and like this whole conversation, moving humanity forward? If we can't reach them, and he's skirting the law, he's doing everything against what he said he was going to do, and they don't even realize that.
They don't care.
For me, I mean, the 2 big things that I keep going back to all the time are, again, to the point of what you've all been discussing, is not what can I do for, what my country can do for me, but what can I do for my country? And the second part for me is treat others how you wish to be treated yourself, right? It's the golden rule. And if people genuinely believed those 2 philosophies, those 2, really dig deep within yourself and understand what it means to go back to what we were talking about earlier, the empathy, the respect, the kindness, again, humanity towards one another. And that is gone. It doesn't exist. And that is where I think we have got to start from. Again, that's why I keep talking about the younger generation. I mean, we can teach them the importance of that. I think that we can sort of hopefully maybe get back to some semblance of normalcy. Because right now, every tradition is broken by Trump.
That's true.
Sorry, I just had to add that.
No, you're absolutely right, Steph. I absolutely agree with you. I go to a question from Debbie. With the recent reversal of Roe versus Wade, do you foresee any other previously held laws that are subject to reversal? I'm going to give that to you, Stephanie.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning for the Republican Party. It's a very scary. I mean, there are no words actually to express that we've gone backwards in time. When we look at how we've all been living prior to the presidency of Donald J. Trump, yes, people agreed to disagree. Yes, and nobody agreed with all of Obama's policies. Nobody agreed with, again, years back. But the divide now and he's sadistic, and he has caused such a disgraceful divide amongst us all. And to take away a woman's right to choose for her own body is something that is just, not only is it hypocritical of them, because the Trump family all believe that abortion was okay, right? Like, they're on record saying it. It's the same thing in the Republican Party. You hear McCarthy saying what Donald Trump did was wrong. When you hear, McConnell say there was an insurrection, it was wrong. And then they all backtrack on it. Who are these individuals that were chosen by Trump to tell us how we should live our lives? And children, babies should be having babies regardless of rape or incest. So, I mean, this is so much wider because this goes into every human right known to mankind.
So what are 2 or 3 things you think that in that question, Stephanie, what do you think is next? Do you think gay marriage is next?
I want to bite my tongue to say that I hope that that again, an individual's right, whether it be pregnancy, marriage, gender, whatever it may be, that belongs to the individual.
I mean, is Clarence Thomas going to vote against interracial marriage? I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, maybe.
But again, hypocrisy.
These are some crazy people. I mean,
Well, Anthony, if Deborah and I have to break up, I'm going to come live in your McMansion.
McMansion.
That's what he calls his house, a McMansion.
Listen, I'm half the man I used to be since the stock market. The house has been sawed in half. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but you have to
live in the same. You have to live in the same bed as me. Okay, I'll just give you the heads up. You may not like that. I'm sure Clarence Thomas wouldn't like that, but he definitely won't like that.
I've already offered him 80 cents on the dollar for his Lamborghini because Bitcoin ain't doing what it's supposed to, but he refuses to take it.
Let me tell you something, though. It worse because the worse. I'm sleeping in the Lambo, okay? Everything's going.
No, you're not, because your mom's going to take it out.
I'll be naked in the Lambo, sleeping in the winter. Okay? I'm not giving up the Lambo, okay? Life has been rough to me lately, but not that rough.
Okay. Stephanie has a question. She asked, how do each of us benefit from the skills of emotional intelligence? I want to give that to Anthony.
Well, listen, I mean, some of the stuff about emotional intelligence is perhaps you're born with it. Some of it, maybe some of your perspective, a heart, maybe a goodness of a heart. But I think a lot of it is learned, and I think if you talk about Zig Ziglar helping others, or you think about what Jackie Robinson said, Jackie's one of my heroes. If you come to my office, there's a picture of Jackie here. He got signed by the Dodgers in April of 47 was his first game, which is, it's hard to believe 75 years ago, and hard to believe what he had to go through to be a Major League Baseball player and the breakthrough. And by the way, there's no ML King Jr. without Jackie. There's no Obama without Jackie, because he broke the color line in sports. Okay. And these people were calling him every goddamn name when he started winning for him. They're like, okay, we're going to give you black, white, or green. We're going to the World Series. You see what I mean? And so what did he say? He said, serve others. You don't have a purpose in life unless your life is out there serving others. And so I think that's the quintessential essence of emotional intelligence.
Okay.
People get that from you, Brad. They love that about you. You're either, they love that about you, Stephanie. Debbie and I don't know each other as well as I know the two of you, but you can feel from somebody when they're like real and they're trying to do the right thing for other people. And you can feel from somebody, no, that guy sucks. He's a ruthless guy, or he's out for himself. You can feel it.
Yeah.
But that's what it's about,
I'm going to add, since you brought up Jackie Robinson, it's a great person to bring up. Let's go. You can even go back a little bit with Joe Louis. When they made Max Schmeling a Nazi, which he was not. Max Schmeling was not a Nazi, but they used in propaganda, Hitler and his crew.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Louis was everything but a man. But when he beat Max Schmeling that day, they wanted to put him on a pedestal, and then he went back to being, because of Jack Johnson, you know this, Anthony, because you fought by it. Because of Jack Johnson, they told Joe Louis, don't you take a picture with a white woman. Don't you be in a room alone with a white woman. This is fact. I know about boxing stuff.
Right.
So Joe Louis endured that, and Jackie as well. Stephanie, you and Deb had basically the same question, so I'm going to ask it to everybody, this question. And it's basically, what can the average person do? Okay, so wait a second, let me make sure. Yeah, average person, and then you asked this too about moving humanity forward. What can the average person watching this, in your opinions, do daily, even if it's a small thing, to move humanity forward? I'm gonna ask the whole panelists. Debbie, you start out.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Again, it's positivity is contagious. Our attitudes are contagious. I don't think we talk enough about allowing one another to have space to make mistakes. Sometimes, and I think I've been thinking a little bit about this after Stephanie and Anthony's comments about working for the Trump administration and some of the feedback that they've gotten. We are not perfect. As humans, we're going to falter, we're going to misstep, we're going to missay, we're going to misdo. We have to allow somebody with a good heart the space to misstep and then redirect their steps. Moving humanity forward, one of the qualities that is necessary to do that is inclusiveness. And with inclusiveness, that tells me that you're bringing it all. So as long as a person has understood that maybe something that they've done in the past, they would not do now with the information that they have, and they've left that behind, and they've fully 100% admitted, okay, this was a misstep, this was a mistake. I think we have to allow one another to have the ability to misstep and correct that step. And again, I think it's the way we engage one another. I think it's the way we talk to one another. You will probably have more success in doing that with somebody who is basically centered. Unfortunately, there's radical people. I don't think you reach them. I'm not saying that you return fire for fire. I'm just saying with radical people, I think it's like talking to the wall. You won't get anywhere. But if it's a person that is moderate, is balanced, has a degree of compassion and humanity, I think that's where you start. And just being inclusive and welcoming to people, I think that that goes a long way in bringing humanity forward.
Okay, now I know that was a combination of Stephanie and Deb had a similar question. Stephanie, do you want to add anything to that?
I do. I mean, everything that Deb said, obviously. But I do really want to focus, though, on the misinformation and disinformation, because in order to move humanity forward, the media does play a role in all of this, in spreading the wrong messages. And again, it could be, I'm not just focusing on Fox. I'm not sitting here to focus on CNN or MSNBC. I'm just talking about journalistic ethics. The standard of journalistic ethics must be something that is as important then as it should be right now. because everyone is trying, because of the digital world, everyone's trying to jump on the next story and jump on the next story without really taking the time to really figure out what happened and who's the story really about. And I have seen that happen over and over and over. And what it does is it just leads to more aggression. It leads to more, again, and no matter how loud you scream from the mountaintops, I know for myself, it's what, 5 years? I mean, I was screaming inside the White House, but I was screaming to lawyers that were ethically not doing the right thing and therefore Trump, not there to protect the citizen who's saying, hey, so much is going on here, we need some help. But those people get silenced, right? So there are people out there. Thank God Cassidy had the strength and the support she needed to actually move away from Stefan Positano, who was the White House ethics lawyer, who I myself spoke to about everything that was going on, not realizing that this was the individual that was later going to work at the Trump organization instead of going in front of Mueller, right? So I'm just saying there's a lot that needs to be looked at. People need to be held accountable, but people with positions of power, whatever platform they have, whether it's moving humanity forward by humanitarian causes that they are involved with, or using their platform to actually help the truth and the people that want to tell the truth get out there, right? Cassidy sat in front of the world. She's told, what was it, 13, 14 million people what she witnessed. That was a revelation that could have, should have, and thank God it did. It could have, should have much earlier. But I feel there's a lot of people in that position. There is nowhere for them to turn to because so many people don't want to hear the truth. And so many people don't want to, I guess, once they've already said something in the media, come out and claim, you know what, we made a mistake, or this person really was involved. There's just so much hearsay.
Okay. Anthony, you want to add?
It's the first time I've heard Stefan Positano's name in 5 years. So, I'm going through a little bit of post-traumatic stress related to thinking about Stefan Positano. So, I don't want to add anything about what Stephanie just said, but I do want to add something about Stephanie, okay? Because I admire Stephanie, because I think we have a lot in common in the following respect, and it's a little bit of a knock on you and a little bit of a knock on me, Stephanie, okay? There's a little bit of naivete to both of us, okay? And what I mean by that, you were like, okay, I'm going to go do this job for you. I'm assuming you're going to go do the right thing, and I'm going to do the right thing, and we're going to do the job, and the job's going to be successful. And the underlying current of malevolence that was in there, okay, as it surfaced and it started lurking, I think you were like, what? You can't really be like this, are you? And then you got alarmed by it, and then you're like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, and you're still jarred by it, because when I hear you talk about it, you're still jarred by it. I am too, by the way, so I relate to it, okay? And so I guess what I'm saying is that, like, for people that have never had that experience, there is that type of evil that is out there, that lurks out there. We try to shelter our kids from it. We try to teach them right from wrong and stuff like that. But when you see the face of it, and it's like right there in your grill, it is jarring, and I admire you because you've been able to speak out about it. You've been a voice for it. And you've been a voice for honesty and truth related to it. But I know, because I share the same pain inside of me, that it affected you in a way, it hits you in a way that changed the course of how you think about human beings. Okay. And I would just say to you, as I often have to say to myself, make it a small group of human beings. Because there's a small batch of people that ruin it for the rest of us. I'm a big believer, Stephanie, that most people by and large are trying to do the right thing and are well-intended. It's those types of people that make us think otherwise. Anyway, it's not on the topic of what you were saying, Brad, but it's more about the experience. And I hope you can relate to what I'm saying, Stephanie.
Absolutely. I get it. Yeah.
and I, again,
but I admire you, and because I have empathy for what you went through as well. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and that's why, like what I was saying earlier, to your point, is that people that have made mistakes, but believe they were doing, regardless if they believe they were doing the right thing or not, you're still living with that. And in order to move forward, we have to be forgiving of ourselves, and we have to be forgiving of one another. Because again, Anthony, how many days was you there? I mean, you were there for less than 2 weeks, and your life.
I was there for 11 days. Don't chip me out of them, okay? I mean, don't say 10. Could hurt my feelings.
And you went into it again wholeheartedly. Okay, and the reality is, look what happened to you. So I empathize. I look at you with such respect and look up to you because of how you've been able to really, truly be one of the first people that came out to speak out about what the truth is. And whether people wanted to listen or not in the beginning, they really didn't. You didn't give up. And that's an amazing thing in today's society. In order to move humanity forward, we need people like you with your experiences, your life, and your knowledge to share it with the rest of us in order for us to learn and be able to do the right thing next time.
Well, so Stephanie, I'm gonna tell you a secret about Anthony, and for everybody watching. If you want to know a big part of why Anthony is the way he is, and this is not a plug for his book, but it is because I love that book, pick up Goodbye Gordon Gekko and read chapter 5. That's all I got to say. Read chapter 5, and you're going to find out a lot about Anthony Scaramucci, which I've told this to him offline. And Debbie knows because I've told, all I'm going to say, one name, Uncle Sal, not just his parents, but Uncle Sal. Read chapter 5. I want to throw out yeah, you're welcome. I want to throw out one question to close out the panel. Excuse me, and I want to ask each one of you this. Completely aside of everything we talked about, I'm going to start with Debbie. With everything going on in the world and trying to be on the right side of history and putting up with me, of course, and my political stances and my marches. I marched, as she knows, for women's rights last week or 2 weeks ago now. What do you do to step back and unwind so you can get back in the fight? What do you do, Debbie?
I buy LSU reads.
LSU reads. Yeah, I know. Oh, God. They're on my front door.
No, seriously, we were talking about this yesterday. Each and every one of us has to find something that gives them joy. Somebody could, and this is not me, I'm not the gardener. I'm not somebody that's going to go out and do a whole lot of gardening or yard work. That's not my thing. But I do like to appreciate art and talent. And when I see things that are, are unique and handmade, I like that. That's, that's what I like to do. So as the seasons go around, because when I drive up to my house and I see something that someone has made and put themselves into it, it puts a smile on my face. Anything that can beautify where my environment is, because sometimes the world could be a harsh, cold place. So when I come into my house and I want to feel warm and I want to feel inspired, I look at the things that, that we've gotten maybe through travels, maybe through just different experiences, or, things that are special to me. I like football. I love football. I used to like basketball a whole lot more than what I do right now. I don't know why I kind of fell off with it, but it's things like that make me feel good, and that kind of maybe center me to not think so much of the things that's going on in the world today. Okay.
Stephanie, same question. What do you do to woosah, or whatever you want to call it?
I'm still, I think, as Anthony heard, and I think you, Brad, know more than anyone, as you and I have gotten to know each other, and Deb, you too, is that I cannot, I haven't found that place yet. I'm still suffering from the effects of what people don't know yet. So how do I feel better is investigating and connecting dots and helping people figure out what the real truth is. And that has been my day-to-day. And I'm not going to stop until whomever those people are, whether it be Trump, his allies, people I don't even know about, are held accountable. And that is my juice, right? I have my children and my husband, and I'm so fortunate. And I'm blessed. I really, truly am. I have people like what Anthony said to me earlier. It means so much to me for someone to actually take a moment, stop in what we're talking about or doing, and say, you know what? I see you, I hear you, and I understand you. But to find any type of just calmness and serenity, I haven't found that yet. And I'm just being honest.
Okay, that's fair.
Right, but you're gonna, and you will find that. You will find that. You'll find your peace with the whole thing. You will. Can I tell Stephanie something I'm like really mad at her for?
Absolutely.
Yeah. She ruined one of my best punchlines. You know, I used to say on all these shows and stuff like that, you know, my wife hates Trump almost as much as Melania hates Trump. Then I read Stephanie's book and I realized Melania is Trump. So she totally killed my punchline. You know what I mean? I still use it. I still use it. I still use it. I'm hoping people haven't read Stephanie's book where they actually, you know, they're the same person, you know. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is my wife told me not to do it, Stephanie. And I didn't listen to her. We almost got divorced over the whole goddamn thing, you know? And then they lied to me and they lit me up in the tabloids. They did everything you could imagine. And so I wake up in the morning unbelievably grateful because I got my life back. And, you know, it could have gone the other way for me where the whole thing would have been overly destructive unnecessarily. And so, you know, I say, Steffi, you're a very good person. You got your life back. Move on. You know, that's probably my message. And I get up in the morning, I'm like, hey, I'm psyched. I got my business back. I got my life back. And I'm also psyched that this son of a bitch, I have 1 million more Twitter followers than Donald Trump. And so I'm very psyched about that because I now have a platform to go after this nonsense and again, if I could turn one person away from voting for him, or, you know, there was only 55-ish thousand people that swung that election to Joe Biden. You guys know that because you follow this. Yeah. It was in Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Actually, it was in the 40s. It was in the 40s.
Yeah, whatever it was 40. It was 40 or whatever the number was.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was, I don't know the exact number, but let's say it was between 40 and 50,000.
Right.
If you moved one person, then you made a difference.
Yes.
So I wake up in the morning super grateful, you know?
Okay. I want to close out with this and then.
But you did kill my line, Stephanie. I just let you know because I read your book.
By the way, sorry about that. However, it is so important that everyone in this world realize that they are one and the same.
Yeah.
They are one. And that's what's so, I think, again, that, wow.
You made that, like, look, I read, as you know, I read the book. I wrote to you afterwards. You know, I listened to a lot of the book in your voice on audio tape when it came out.
Well, that's why I call it receipts, because she got receipts for everything, which is good.
Yeah.
Because it's built in fact, not fiction. So I want to close out and say to each one of you that I appreciate you coming on. You mean the world to me. You know, Anthony, I love you, my paisan. Stephanie, you're my Mashugana. Stephanie is my favorite Mashugana because I love her to death.
Same here.
I love her to death. You guys use your platforms. I always tell people it comes at a cost. It's not always financial. You put yourself out there because you love country, you love truth. We can disagree on some issues or some policy. That's healthy. But we don't disagree on, we all want to collectively move humanity forward and be on the right side of history. So I love you guys, Deb, you too. You do it daily. I live with you, so I know. And by the way, if you didn't know, folks, that's LSU stuff in the background that some of my retirement isn't that LSU stuff or is that New Orleans?
This Mardi Gras stuff.
Oh, Mardi Gras. And part of my retirement check went to. So on that note, I want to one more time give the mic back to you guys as I always do on anything that I do. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing? I'll start with Debbie. Go ahead.
No, it's just an honor to be on. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you sorry?
Go ahead.
Just an honor to be on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Deb?
No, you know, I am a country girl from Vacherie, Louisiana, who never got involved in anything political. I basically just, you know, hard work, nose to the ground, grind, try to support my family, try to be supportive of my mate. And so I always view myself as like kind of neutral with a lot of this. And it really is heart-wrenching what's going on. And to me, it's crystal clear. It's crystal clear that we are in a fight for democracy. And I'm not a political scholar. I'm not a person who has a long history with politics. But I would encourage people to educate themselves. I don't know who's going to see this. If it's one person that sees this and says, okay, here's this blue collar lady that's been in industry for the past 30 years, telling me that I need to educate myself, then I would 100% beg you, please educate yourself. Don't fall for the conspiracies. Don't listen to things that are insane. Balance. Get back to balance. So I know maybe I might be batting above my my weight here, with Stephanie and Anthony, but just from the background that I have, if I can encourage people, is to educate themselves, see things as what they are and not what you want them to be, and to remove the things in your heart that could be blinding you from reality. Lies are just that, lies. And there's nothing good about a lie. And in fact, I think a lie is the reason why we are in the situation that we're in right now in more than one ways. So I appreciate being able to be a part of this panel. I appreciate the interaction. I think it was great. It's inspiring, and it's something I'll definitely remember for the rest of my life.
Until you come downstairs and tell me to take out the trash. Stephanie,
that's the least of it. Okay, she got other plans for you.
Oh, I know. Stephanie, you get the final word.
Final word. No, I thank you all, and always thank you for allowing me to voice my truth and to share what I have experienced, and hope that through connectivity and relationships, people will begin to just listen to one another more. And I'm grateful to have people like Anthony and Debbie and Brad that understand the importance of coming together and speaking about these issues. So thank you.
Okay. On that note, thank you again so much. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Love you.
All right.
Thank you.
God bless, guys. See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's another special episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show with my third Moving Humanity Forward panel with Debbie, Anthony, and Stephanie. I know you guys are going to love it, so leave your comments below. Make sure you subscribe, retweet it, quote tweet it. Tell me comments on tweets about what you thought about the panel. We're going to be doing more of them. And remember, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out. Thank you for watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Please follow, subscribe, leave comments, forget about it, and move humanity forward.